Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talks with V. This season, we are talking about safety, and I'm super excited to introduce us to our guest that's coming on. But before we get into it, we're going to remind you to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel at V Bailey Network and share this video. So subscribe first and make sure to share this video. All right. Well, as I mentioned, this season is all about safety. We're basing it off my book, The Safest Place, and I'm super excited about that release, us releasing that soon. But this topic is so important, and I wanted us to focus on the different areas of safety and the things that prevent us from being safe, as well as just learning those different tools so that we can find safety in the areas that we don't feel safe, as well, most importantly, is finding safety within. And so this topic tonight is on finding safety with divorcing fear. And I know like this title is based off of our guest's book. So without further ado, I would love to introduce friend and sports therapist as an author. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Cordell Winrow. Welcome.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. We're out here just trying to, do this work and help the people. Just doing what I love doing. And I know you're a busy man, so I'm so happy that you're able to make this happen. We have a bit of a time difference, West Coast and Central Standard Time. So we made it work, right?
We made it work. We made it work.
Awesome. So, Cordell, for me, my belief is that you can't really thrive if you don't feel safe, right? And so, when I think about, safety, I feel like it's kind of hard to feel safe when you're in fear, right? And a lot of us battle with fear in our lives, and we don't really realize all the things it impacts. So, from your perspective and your expertise, do you believe that you can be safe if you're in fear?
Absolutely not. I think fear is one of those things that gives you the illusion that
Mm-hmm.
you're safe
Mm-hmm.
while actually snatching safety away from you.
Oh, wow.
Um, for the longest time, my own battle has been with the idea that I'm safe in mess. When
Mm.
in all actuality, that mess is what keeps me in the most dangerous spot possible.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
And so I think for a lot of people, because of our misunderstanding of what fear actually is and what it does to us, we mistakenly believe that if we listen to the voice of fear, it will
Mm-hmm.
keep us safe.
Mm. Wow. And yeah, that I think it's a familiarity thing, you know. Um, a lot of times, the things that we learn and how we grow up, we get accustomed to that. That becomes normal. And so sometimes there's things that we learn, bad habits, and just, certain environments that we have grown comfortable. And so sometimes those very things that are best for us are scary. We have a fear of that. We have a fear of success. Just fear. Anxiety is based off of fear. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And as I mentioned earlier, that you're an author, and I know it's of two books, but today we're talking about your book, "Divorcing Fear," which is your first book, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so with "Divorcing Fear," you got to tell us. about that. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about you, and what it is that you do, your background.
So I graduated college with a degree in biomechanics. So I
Okay.
love all things human body, right? Um, I ended up becoming a personal trainer through a series of events from snapping a hamstring,
Mm,
going through rehab, and then realizing rehab was a frustrating thing because of the
mm,
way that the system is set up. And so my goal was when I became a personal trainer, how do I help people prevent injury?
okay.
What I found out is people don't care about preventing injuries most of the time. They just want the body that they want. And, they'll pay you to get them the body that they want in the time frame that they want. So um, I really
If
got
you make
frustrated.
miracles
I,
happen.
Look, I've tried to work those kind of miracles, and you would not believe how frustrating it is when the miracles you're trying to work are being prevented by the people that you're trying to do the miracles for.
Yeah, I
Uh,
could imagine.
you can create the best workout plan possible for somebody, and they will screw that workout plan because they don't want to eat right.
Oh yeah, well, that's hard. All of that, I get it on the weight loss journey, and then, falling into those things that you love, and then, you have a bad day and you're just like, today I deserve it.
Right? And
And then that
so
turns into a week. It's like, no, we got to get it back together.
Right. And so I was a personal trainer for quite some time. And then I was just like, I got fed up because I got
Mm,
so tired of being in this machine where it's like you're just trying to sell people personal training and then people not caring about taking care of themselves.
right.
So I decided, I'm done with personal training. And I ended up going into like kickboxing as a coach,
Hmm.
um, rowing as a coach, boxing as a coach. Like coaching is basically like my thing. So
Hmm.
any
Right.
sport, anything that you could think of, I could get my hands on to coach. That's what I was trying to do. And
Mm,
I loved coaching. I just found that it was so tiresome because it wasn't scratching that itch of this is where I'm supposed to be.
right. Like purpose and things of that
Exactly.
nature. I mean, you can only do it for so long, especially with that, spiritual background. And I
Absolutely.
think in general, when you're in touch with yourself, and the more you get in touch with yourself, you start to realize, okay, there is a higher, purpose for my life, and that God is calling you to do. I'm not really for sure how it is for people who are not like, they don't have like a faith based, religion, or religion period. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know that when something is tugging at you, there's only so long that you can ignore it. So, yeah, you do
Absolutely.
all these other jobs and it'll be like, this is not fulfilling. I don't feel like I'm making a difference, or I don't feel like my work is makes me proud, or you know what I mean? And so, yeah, eventually one way or another you'll get get to where you need to go.
I ended up firing several clients and I was like, you know what? I'm done like coaching. And that's around the time COVID hit.
Mhm.
And I just had this crazy idea, go back to school.
Mm.
Go get your certification as a massage therapist.
Mm, okay.
And I was like,
And so that's got which brought you to the sports therapy, right?
yeah,
Okay. Awesome. And then you're also a life coach, right?
yes. I
Yeah.
I ended up starting life coaching even before I started personal training, just because like I was enamored by how the human being thinks through things and
Right.
goes through process. And
Hmm.
like I'd seen a lot of studies with the outside in method or the inside out on how to deal with change. And the school of thought that I come from with life coaching is the outside in, inside out. You're doing
Mm,
both of them at the same time. So you're doing
mm.
the extra uh, curricular stuff as well as the intrinsic internal stuff all at the same time.
Okay. Oh, that's
And
awesome.
it's pretty phenomenal if you ask me.
Okay. Nice. Well, we want to hear a little bit more about this book. So, what, tell us about what led you to write the book, and then um, what are the steps, to divorcing fear? Because I think that's like the $1 million question. When you hear a title like Divorcing Fear, we're like, I'm intrigued because we all know that we have fears, even if we admit them or we don't. We have fears,
Right.
and I think that it limits us. So tell us about what led you to writing this book and how you even came up, with how you were even bold enough to to, to write this book.
So I will be frank. Divorcing fear was definitely a labor of love,
Oh,
love for myself,
okay.
and then thinking about other people that go through the exact same thing that I go through.
Mm,
You'd be surprised, you know, the amount of doubts and things that you deal with on a regular basis that you think are just unique to you. And I
right.
found that through the journey of like finding that I kept sabotaging relationships, that I was
Mm,
sabotaging friendships, that I was sabotage was the name of the game for me.
mm,
Anything that you think that you can sabotage in a friendship, in a relationship, doing things that you know is going to get your friendship like shut down, I
mm,
would do those things and I didn't know why I was doing those things. I didn't
mm,
know why, I was purposely trying to set people up to see that I was a horrible person, or purposely trying to catch people in, aha, you lied to me. Of course, you're just like everybody else.
mhm,
Like I would orchestrate my own downfall, testing
mm,
people that didn't deserve to be tested. Like, are you telling me the truth? Trying to catch people on lies, trying to set
mhm.
them up to be liars, like all this
Oh,
kind of
man.
stuff because of issues that I had with
Mm,
allowing people close to me. And why? Because
hmm,
I was afraid that I was going to be abandoned. I was afraid that I was going to be rejected because that's what I
mm,
experienced all my life.
mm.
Abandonment, rejection, people saying one thing but then doing something completely different. Like hypocrisy was a huge thing. Like so
Right.
I was basically afraid of my own shadow half of the time.
Wow. Wow, that's really deep. But, I want to, ask a question about that because I think that that's really interesting. Like I know that you come from a good background, right? And I think, and I come from a good background, but I think a lot of times people feel like when you come from a good background or what appears, you got two parents in the home, they love you, what how could you be going through anything like that, abandonment and, rejection, which obviously we experience rejection. So that's more believable. But the abandonment, they don't really understand. And I think that sometimes that makes it harder for us to go through those things that you experience, right?
Hmm.
Because some on the outside looking in, people are looking and they think like, oh, he's fine, she's fine. Their life looks pretty good to me, like what I wouldn't pay to have to trade, shoes with you, right?
Right.
So would you say that that kind of makes it hard, when you're trying to um, get to that place of growth?
I would say, growing up in a stable two-parent household,
Hmm.
there are lots of things that people overlook.
Mm. Yeah.
And one of the things that they overlook is the pain in which your parents haven't dealt with
Mm.
becomes the issue that you will now have to deal with.
Mm. Meaning like their own personal pain, or like pain that maybe that you had that got overlooked and now you're dealing with all on your own. Is that what you're saying?
Both,
Both.
because
Okay.
unhealed wounds in a parent will become the trauma for the child.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, when you have a
Yeah.
parent
We
that
understand
has
that.
unhealed wounds that they don't even know are unhealed, they will wreak
Mm.
havoc and traumatize the child that they are raising that looks
Wow.
the most like them.
Wow. That's okay. Talk more about that because that's pretty interesting.
Okay, so a lot of my trauma stems from my dad. Now,
Okay.
I I love my dad, so like this is not me bad talking my dad, like, and I've written
Yeah.
about this in my book, but I am most closely like my dad. And
Okay.
when my dad looks at me, he sees himself.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
all of the unhealed things that he went through, when he looks at me, he sees himself. And so
Mm.
those things that weren't healed in him, he's trying to heal them in me rather than deal with
Right.
them in himself.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. That makes
all of
sense.
the lessons that he wished that he would have gotten, he
Mm-hmm.
tries to give me
Right.
because I look like him. I act like him. So
Mm.
where he wished somebody would have been more critical about how he did things, he's hypercritical towards me.
Mm. Now, would you say that I would think that parents are just like that, but like when you say it that way, it makes me think it's maybe parents are that way, but it's probably even more intense when you look like them because it's like a constant reminder of like looking in the mirror. And sometimes our parents didn't even have time to deal with some of those things. They're just like, I didn't die.
I didn't die,
You
so
ain't
you
gonna
won't
die.
die.
You
You're gonna be
won't.
just fine.
You're
Um,
gonna be just fine, right? And so they're like, as long as I pour these things into you and you don't die, hopefully I give you something more, than what I had. I don't know, but keep going, because this is very interesting.
so like with my dad, I can honestly say there's a lot of stuff that he wasn't aware of. And
Hmm.
so he was trying to give me things that if he was healed, he
Hmm.
probably would have recognized real quick that I didn't need what he was trying to give. I needed something else.
Mm, yeah.
So even though my personality, I'm a lot like my dad as far as stubbornness, and I've got this drive to do things my way, which is exactly how my dad was. Um,
Hmm.
I'm also more sensitive than my dad ever was.
Wow.
So I didn't need the constant criticism. I actually needed more encouragement than anything. My
Yeah. Yeah.
dad, my dad needed the criticism. That was
Right.
one thing he craved. I craved encouragement. I didn't crave criticism. So what did my dad give me? He gave me what he never had, which was the criticism to get
Mm,
better.
right.
But in doing so, he didn't recognize that the criticism was cutting and killing me.
Right. That's so interesting. And yeah, I feel like we can relate, so much. And that is it sucks, that they don't know this, at that time, and it's just something that they learn later. And so I totally get where you're coming from with that. The little ones, right? Actually. But no, I totally get where you're coming from with that, and how you say that we have to end up dealing with it later. Because hey, no one is perfect. I think even the best parents, there's still something, right? Because they're just
Right.
trying to do what they think, is best, or what they, feel like they learn is best. And it can be completely opposite of what, the next person needs. And we do that,
Right.
I think, even in relationships with people and friends. We think like, okay, we'll work with this other person, it should work with you. But it's just like, no, we're different.
I
So
think
that,
that's the hardest thing when coming into this space of healing
Mm,
is realizing that my dad couldn't give me what I needed because he never had it in the first place. And I can't
right.
ask him to give me something he doesn't himself have.
Yeah.
So, part of my growth as a young man was recognizing that number one, my dad isn't a bad person. He gave me what he had and he couldn't give me what he didn't have.
Right.
So,
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't fault him for not giving me what he didn't have. But at the same time, this is also part of the healing journey was to not give him the pass that everyone might give their parent a pass once they realize, oh, they didn't have it. Part of my
Hmm.
healing journey was to say, no, while you didn't have it, I can't fault you for not having it. What I do hold you accountable for is you didn't look for it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that that's the part that makes it hard in some cases for people to heal. Um, but you know what I've learned in it, even though it is still hard, because there's things that you just desire from a parent, right? You just do. You might get it somewhere else, and I think that that's the beauty, you know, of how God works things out. He will put people in your life to kind of fill in the gap, stand in the gap, you know, be there, provide the thing that you need. Because that is really all that's important is that your needs, you know, get met, right? But sometimes it's harder for us because we are looking for it to come from this particular person, and we will reject, you know, we'll do some of the same things we experience and we'll reject, you know, where it's coming from if it's not what we desire. And I think that that's kind of part of the lesson is to learn that, hey, there's something that you need and it is provided to you. Be able to recognize that it is what you need,
Right.
and you know, not get hung up on where it is coming from, because sometimes you may not ever get that, like that that thing that you feel like you need from them, because like you said, you know, your dad didn't have it to give, right? And if he didn't have it to give, did he know how to look for it if he didn't really understand that about himself, right? And so I totally get what you're talking about. And then when you have those conversations, you're like, okay, well, I had the conversation with you, so now you know you could try and be better, you know, from now on. And what if they don't? What if they have fears that they can't do that? And so they don't. What are you going to do? You know, so I guess that's where your point is that it's left on us to do it for ourselves, right? And that's what, you know, my book is really about, is being empowered just in case you don't get that apology, just in case you don't get that relationship that you want, like it doesn't change, you know,
Right.
because it takes both people, you know, everybody involved. And so yeah, about just being able to do that, you know, find the tools so you can do it, you know, for yourself. But obviously it sucks in the process because it doesn't feel good.
I mean, sometimes I've also had to catch myself and realize that some of the issue actually does fall on me for
Mm,
holding him as the only source where I can get this thing from instead of
yeah,
realizing if he didn't have it, what other sources can I go to get the thing that he doesn't have? And I realized I've had several mentors over the years that have
yeah,
stepped into places where my dad just didn't have it.
yeah,
Mentors have had it and they have mentored me in those spaces and
right.
I've been better for it.
And
And
that
it's
that's good. That's good because sometimes he took you as far as he could go, right? But these
mhm,
other mentors that have come into your life, they might take you further. We want, you know, you want it to be your dad, but what if your dad he gave you the things he was, you know, good at, the things that he knew well, right? He was an expert in these other areas, but he wasn't an expert over in this other area that you wanted to get something from him. And so the truth is that if he would have done it, you would have missed out possibly on those other mentors because you would have felt, oh, gratified because I'm getting this from my dad, you know? And those are the things that I feel like sometimes we miss. It's like the silver lining. Like it doesn't work out over here, but it ended up working out better, because this person over here had the juice. They had the plug, they had the network and it just took me higher than I would have been. And so it actually all worked out for my good, and that is like, okay, I see, I see what happened here. And so that's really dope, that you got that, well, it worked out that way. So let's move forward to what are the steps? What are these steps to take to divorce fear?
So, divorcing fear, excuse me, divorcing fear is one of those things that I would say it's easy as a concept, hard as a practice.
Mm, yeah.
Um, we've heard the old adage, easier said than done, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those things. Because in divorcing fear, first off, you got to recognize where fear is speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us don't necessarily know fear's voice, even though we know it perfectly clearly and perfectly well. We haven't identified it as fear. We've identified it as something that is normal. This is what I just normally do.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how things are.
Yeah.
This is just the way that I process information. Like fear has become so normal and integrated into our lives that we
Mm-hmm.
don't identify it as fear.
Don't even recognize it, huh?
If you
That's
can't recognize it, you're not going to be able to divorce it. You're not going to be able to deal with it.
right.
So that's probably one of the first things is recognizing that you're actually dealing with fear.
Hmm.
Two, you got to make a distinction between the voice of fear and the voice of wisdom or the voice of faith, however you want to decipher the opposing voice coming to you. Because fear sounds a certain way. It will drive you, it will motivate you, it will move you in a certain way.
Mm,
Wisdom and faith work opposite to fear.
mm, mm,
And so sometimes what we think is risky and causes us to feel fearful isn't the fearful thing. The fearful thing is actually let me try to paint this as a better picture.
okay.
Say you're looking at a new job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this new job will cause you to become free financially independent and actually move you closer to your dreams. And you know that this is something that you've had your heart set on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you're thinking about it, you hear this crazy chaotic noise start to rattle on the inside of you. All the reasons why this can't happen, this would be bad, how, what if this, 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 and
Mm-hmm.
this would happen, this, and it paints this whole picture of everything going wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is fear coming into existence,
Mm,
beating you down to get you to say no to this thing that would actually drive fear away.
mm. Wow.
So anything that is of faith, anything that is of wisdom will cause fear to begin to scream.
Mm. Wow.
Like, because if you walk in faith, if you walk in wisdom, fear's got nowhere else to go
But come out, right?
but to come out, because
Mm,
you are disempowering it by not listening to it and agreeing with it.
mm. Wow.
So
So,
that was step two, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole recognizing and then, yeah, and then deciphering the different, I mean, deciphering the different
Hmm.
voices between fear and wisdom and
And
faith.
faith. So, third thing that I think is absolutely crucial in this process is you have to begin to break your agreement with fear.
Mm.
Now, here's the crazy part. Fear will try to get you to agree with it by any means necessary.
Mm. It don't take much sometimes.
It really don't take much. It by any means necessary, fear is going to try to make you agree with it or get you to agree with it because
Mhm.
it functions by agreement. The more
Mm,
you agree with it, the louder its voice gets. So
right.
it always starts off something small, something small, and then all of a sudden you just wake up one day and it's like there's this glaring thing just sitting on you. And
Mm,
the only thing that you can think to do is operate in fear.
wow.
And you don't even recognize that you're operating in fear because you've been agreeing with it for so long it's become normal.
Right. Yeah. You're like consenting. You're like, yeah,
Exactly.
I'll sign here. I'll keep
That's
on signing.
exactly it.
It's like
That's
social
exactly
media
it.
and all the little small print. You like, okay, fun is on the other side of this. They're like, do you agree to this? You're like, sure, sure, sure. Sure, sure,
That's
you got all my
exactly
information
how
anyway.
that's exactly how I would define it. And so
Wow.
we agree with fear for so long, and then all of a sudden there's that one moment where fear loses its hold, and you can agree with faith or you can agree with wisdom, and all of a sudden your eyes are open for a moment.
Mm, yeah.
It's in that space that you have to make the decision to, I got to cut my ties with, like, I've got to work tirelessly to
Yeah.
figure out where has fear infiltrated my life,
Mm,
because it's not just in this area, but now I'm recognizing that fear has been speaking and I've been listening and I need to get out of here.
right. That's good.
Now, the fourth thing is really what I would say is probably the hardest thing for most people, and that is breaking your contract with fear.
Hmm. So you're breaking your agreement with fear. And then you said the fourth thing is
Breaking the
breaking.
contract with fear. So,
Okay.
breaking the agreement with fear is legitimately, I'm now recognizing that fear is there and I'm now starting to say no to fear.
Right. You're no longer submitted to it, to fear.
Exactly.
Okay. And then
But
that contract is more like, this is serious.
the,
Okay.
well, I would say it this way: the contract really just means that you are now coming to a place where you recognize every place that fear has stuck its finger and it
Okay.
screwed you over.
Wow.
And you're saying, this was not supposed to be part of my agreement with fear. Like, the only reason I allowed fear here in the first place
Mhm.
because I thought fear was going to protect me, right?
Mm,
And you start looking at the fine print, and this is what I talked about in the book. It's like
right.
when I was going through this process, I didn't know what I was signing. I
Mm, I
thought I was
get you. I
signing.
get you.
I thought I was signing a document that said that fear was going to protect me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what I really signed was a slave contract.
Mm,
I
wow.
became a slave to fear.
Right.
And
Right.
so anytime I messed up, that gave fear much more control over my life. So even
Right.
when I was like, no, I'm coming out of agreement with fear, fear just, no, you already signed on the dotted line. So I've got control of you and I can
Right.
exert so much influence that it feels like you're the one making the decision, but I'm the one controlling the strings.
I got you. So the agreement, when you're breaking the agreement, is kind of like a separation, but
Yes.
breaking the contract is the divorce.
Breaking the
Now
contract
you
is the
are
divorce.
parting
Yeah.
ways. Okay, I got
We
you.
are done.
We're
Um,
done. Okay.
and with
Good.
breaking the contract, that's specific, and I try to explain to all of the readers
Mhm.
that if you're going to break a contract with fear, you either A, need to be on team Jesus, or this is going to be an uphill battle for you because like I come from a faith background, right? So
Right.
this is how I got free. So I can only show you how I got free. I don't
Right.
know any other ways other
No,
than
I
this
understand. I
particular way.
understand. Yeah.
And so what I ended up having to do was I had to really think back and ask the Lord to show me when exactly I got involved with fear, what things have I signed without realizing it, and where have I transgressed that agreement. Because the real issue is that if I go to the Lord, say, you got to break this contract, fear is going to just show the Lord the contract and say, he transgressed this, so he's got to pay the penalty.
Mm.
I'm not really keen on paying penalties that I didn't know I was going to pay in the first place. So I'm going to just ask the Lord to show me where have I transgressed. And there's this real cool thing that I talk about in the book is while the enemy likes to show you the small print, God always deals in the fine print.
Mm.
And if you understand the difference between small and fine, fine print is even smaller than small print.
Mm.
And that
It's the
fine
kind
print
you
is
can't read.
it's the kind you can't read, and the fine print is always in red.
So it's worse. It's worse to read. I mean, like it's like,
No,
oh
it's
yeah, boy.
better. It's better
Is
because
it?
again, Christian background, faith background.
Well, yeah, the red is what Jesus is
Red
talking about.
the
That's
red
Jesus
is
speaking.
the blood of Jesus. So
Yeah.
anything that was in red on that fine print was
Mm.
really God's like solution to the small print.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so
Think about that. That's
going
good.
through going through that, one of the things that I was reminded of, the Bible talks about if you confess your sins, he's faithful and just to forgive your sins and cleanse you from all unrighteousness.
Mm-hmm.
That was the fine print and detail that like cleared the slate.
Mm.
So I had to go into a place of where I was just like, nope, Jesus, I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. We went into this.
Right.
We got into porn. We got into gambling. We got into this. We got into
Mm.
that. Like I just went down the list of everything that I knew that I was guilty of, that I knew my
Wow.
family was guilty of, that I knew that we had gotten into, like you
Mm.
name it. Like I was very specific about everything that he brought to mind.
Right. Because you're breaking those contracts as well, that have been passed down to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in breaking those contracts, one of the greatest things that he showed me was after you break those contracts, you can file a countersuit.
Mm. Okay.
Countersuits are so great. You want to know why?
Yes.
I believe Ty Tribbett said it this way: "I want it all back. Everything that you stole from me, I want
Yeah.
it all back." But when
Yeah.
you file a countersuit, you're literally taking the enemy for what the enemy did because now it's false accusations because there's no longer a contract that he's holding.
Mm.
So now you're basically in this court of law. You're saying, hey, he's accusing me, but there's no contract here, but I want to file a countersuit because here's where he's transgressed. Here's where,
Mm.
where I've caught the enemy red handed. This
Yeah.
point, this point, this point, this point. And we went down the list. When I tell you that after doing all of that with the Lord,
Mhm.
there was like when I tell you there was an immediate shift, there was
Mhm.
an immediate shift. Like
Wow.
doors that had perpetually been closed, like Lord, I keep knocking on this door. Why can't I get through?
Mm.
Why don't I have favor here? Why isn't it this? Like it seems
Yeah.
like every door is being shut in my face. All those doors that had been shut in my face started like
Mm.
opening. Like so real quick
Yeah.
story. Like I started my business during COVID.
Mhm.
Like I got my LLC back when COVID started, which was the worst time to start a business in my opinion, right?
Okay.
In my opinion, that's the worst time to start a business, but Jesus was like, start the business. So I was like, fine, I'll
Okay.
start the business. Um, I finished my massage therapy certification, and immediately, when I tell you immediately I had a job, I mean immediately. I had did an externship at a sports therapy place, the current place I'm at right now,
Mhm.
and the owner of that spot went on maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
I was not. I was freshly graduated. I may have had like 3 months under my belt,
Mhm.
and the owner of the space hands me the keys and says, "Can you keep this open for me?"
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, and it was a blessing for them too, because they didn't have to close, and someone can kind of keep that running while they are on maternity leave. Like,
Now it gets better. The story gets better because you ain't
collect
going
all the
like
money. Don't leave no money
you
on the
ain't
table.
you ain't going you're not gonna want to miss this because like okay, so that first year, I keep the business running.
Hmm.
She goes out on maternity leave. She's gone for about a year because
Wow,
she's trying to get the baby set up. Now,
California, gotta love
when
it.
when I tell you that the my now my business partner at the time, but when she gave me the keys, she was expecting that we might go in the red because she didn't know if the people would want to continue coming because she was out, right?
Right, right, right.
So this is my first business endeavor, and most people say your first business endeavor, it usually takes about 4 to 5 years before
Yes,
you go
yeah.
in the black, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
No, I was in the black year one.
Small little flex.
I was in black year one. Year two, we were in the black. Year three, like I was like, something I don't understand this. Like we've got
God,
over 500 clients now.
yeah.
When we started, we only had about 215. We had over 500 clients by year three.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
now
awesome. That's the confirmation you need. Like, okay, yeah, I was supposed to, this is what
okay,
I was supposed to do.
I don't usually talk money, but this is actually crucial to the story. I
Okay.
had never made over $60,000
Mm,
in my adult life. Okay,
yeah.
never made over $60,000. By year three, I was in six figures.
And then don't you look at it like, dang, all this time I've been getting in my own way,
Let me tell you,
stayed in
I
my own way.
I like I'm in year four now, right? And we're on track to make about 30% more than I made last year.
Wow, that's awesome. No,
I'm
that
trying,
is beautiful. Blessing.
right, and I'm trying to figure out this whole time, all I had to do was
It's,
say no to fear. I just had to divorce fear and kick fear out of my life, and all these doors would open.
oh
Like,
my gosh.
all these possibilities would begin to start to overflow in my life.
But the crazy thing, Cordell, is that a lot of us, it's like we know it, but like, it's like that's the craziest part is that you know it's going to be better on the other side, but you still keep on sabotaging, agreeing, then you get to the point that you're so comfortable you cannot hear or distinguish the voice, the difference between wisdom. Is that wisdom or am I doing too much? You know, that's how it be. But yeah, man.
So when I tell you like going through the process for myself, and then I've actually taken several other people through the process, and I've seen their lives begin to explode, I'm serious.
That's awesome.
I'm so serious. Like divorcing fear is absolutely necessary if you want to hit that next space in your life
Mhm,
of
mhm.
purpose, of authentic living. You've
Uh-huh.
got to say no to fear. You've got to divorce fear. You've got to make it a point to chase fear out on site. Like,
Mm.
I mean, we throwing hands on site. I see fear, we throwing hands,
It's like we
right?
ain't doing that.
Nah,
Like we got to put that energy in the place, because sometimes we be having energy at the wrong time for the wrong things. It's like, no, we need to put that energy. You got a little aggression, use that aggression to push fear out because as we let it in, it does just take over. And once you let it in, it's very difficult to get it out. So yeah, I
it,
love that you have the steps. Steps are necessary. So people can kind of look at something and say, okay, in a practical, I'm going to be practical about this. I am weak in this area, right? So obviously, I have to recognize that about myself so I can know what I'm going to need to get out of it, and be consistent with those steps
I
and getting
forgot
whatever
one
help you
thing.
need.
I forgot
Yeah.
one thing. I gotta throw this in because if I don't throw this in, I'm gonna get in trouble, and I don't want to get in trouble. Forgiveness.
Oh,
Forgiveness is absolutely one of the most important steps in this process. And
wow. Okay.
really, really, you can do it you're going to want to do it once you recognize fear and you start the process of like uh, saying no to fear and getting the
Mhm.
divorce finalized. You're going to start forgiving people. You're going to start forgiving yourself.
Mm,
You're going to start
okay.
forgiving, because here's the thing: fear doesn't simply work by itself, fear works through people.
Right. And so when you say forgiveness, I guess, is that as it pertains to maybe the people that you were afraid of, or what? Who are we forgiving?
We are forgiving the people that instilled fear into you or got you to think of it this way: we are
Okay.
forgiving the drug dealer
Mm,
that dealt you fear.
mm,
So that person that
the
ridiculed
fear
your
dealer.
gift, yeah, the fear dealer, the
Okay.
person that ridiculed your gift and said that you can't sing and you sing this way, that got you to shrink back and think that your voice
Yeah.
wasn't good enough. The
Yeah. Yeah.
person
Yeah.
who utilized their physicality to make you cower in fear. um,
Mm,
the bullies, uh,
yeah.
whether they're spiritual leaders or not, because I mean there are several pastors that I can name first name basis and last name basis if we want, that instilled a sense of fear in my life that I was never
Mhm,
good enough. Because a lot of
mhm.
people don't realize that not good enough stems from fear. That
Yeah.
not worthy
Yeah.
stems from fear.
Yeah.
That anxiety, that
Seems
depression,
pretty
it
cool.
stems from fear.
Yeah. Because you're.
And you have these people that are dealing in fear towards you.
Hmm. Okay, that's so good. And then too, would you say also forgiveness of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes,
100%.
we keep it going and we start being that person that feeds us fear.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
start telling yourself lies because you're used to the ones that you heard, and you, like you were stating before, being in agreement, like you are accepting these things and internalizing these things, and then letting it fester, inside. And it's just making it worse. It's that thing that you
Absolutely.
thought was one small comment. And
Absolutely.
yeah, no, that's so good. Well, okay, that brings me to our last question. Was it our last question? No, second to last, but we're gonna be wrapping it up. So yes, is there a such thing of having a healthy amount of fear to keep us safe? Because I have heard that.
Okay. So I don't remember if I talked about this in the book,
Mhm.
but there's some developments from after writing the book that I would throw out
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah.
After writing the book, there are certain things that we deem as fear that I would not deem as fear,
Oh,
that are
okay. Okay.
actually healthy for us.
Right.
Um, caution is
Yeah, I was gonna
absolutely caution is absolutely necessary. Discernment, absolutely necessary. We would think of those as, oh, that's fear based. No, discernment allows you to distinguish what's going on. Caution is
Mhm.
like, oh, you know what? I know I can probably take that turn at 40 miles an hour, but because I know that there might be black ice on that road, I'm going to take this at 20 miles an hour. I'm
Ah,
going to be safe.
yeah.
It's recognizing, oh no, I can absolutely do this and it'll
Right.
be fine.
Yeah.
But there's
But best
wisdom.
practices.
But best practice says, um, there's been it's been really cold. It rained not too long ago, and it's below freezing right now. So it's probably not a wise idea to take that
Mm,
curve at 50 miles an hour, even though its speed limit says you can take this curve at 50 miles an hour. Just gonna
right.
exercise a little caution in that.
That's
And so,
good. That's good because we need to know the difference between caution and fear. Caution is not a bad thing,
No.
But fear, it can be, because obviously we see what it can do to us and what it can do
And
to others.
I would take it a step further in saying fear doesn't see possibilities where caution does.
Mm,
So
that's good.
again, using that analogy,
Hmm.
caution says we can take that at 50. Like I know for a fact I can take this at 50. I'm not afraid of taking this at 50.
Mm,
But caution realizes there's some other factors at play right now that this isn't the normal circumstance for me to take this
right,
at 50.
right.
Fear says, oh no, I can never take this at 50. Because if
Mm,
I take this at 50, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like this could happen, this could happen. Caution doesn't say that.
mm.
Fear says that. So when we distinguish caution from fear, we need to understand caution sees possibilities. Fear does not.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, lastly, it's that time. Has there ever been, has there been areas in your life where you felt unsafe as a man, that you couldn't admit, because the expectations of being a man? You know how that is.
The easy, the quick answer, the quick and dirty answer is yes. There are still areas that
Yeah.
I don't feel safe.
Mm,
But here's the caveat.
okay. Because that's not something we usually get to hear, is like, is someone saying, I do, as a man, there are things that I fear, because there's not really that, it's not, you're hearing things and implying that, but like, not a free, safe space, as we're talking about, what we're looking for is a
Right.
safe place, to be able to express. I am afraid, of certain things. I do have a fear of blase.
So
And I think it's important to give a platform, a safe space to express that, because I think that is kind of it's good for other people to know, and have, so that they can take the steps to divorcing fear. And I know that you wrote this book, so if you don't mind, sharing, like you already shared, yes, but maybe a fear, that you feel comfortable, sharing.
I will say that I would not call any of these fears anymore.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I'm not afraid of voicing them. I have no
Mm,
problems voicing anything anymore.
uh-huh.
The real issue is, like you said, is it a safe space for me to voice these things?
That's good. Yeah.
I'm very cognizant that not all spaces are safe spaces, and that's not a fear-based thing. That is read the room,
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
people, and you begin to
Yeah.
know just by hearing them talk if they're safe to talk with.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
can hear that you're not a safe person to talk with, I am not going to share with you.
So you
Like,
think that that's well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so I'm a dad of four. You
Yeah.
know, I struggle on a regular basis with
Mhm.
feeling if I'm doing a good job raising my kids, if I'm present
Okay.
enough,
Yeah.
if I'm the type of dad that is going to cause them to come to life, or if I'm becoming like my dad and I'm actually choking the life out of them because I'm so strict. No, these are the real things that I really consider on a regular basis, and I'm
Yeah.
like, really, am I doing okay
Hmm.
as a
Yeah.
dad?
Yeah.
And in certain spaces, I have no problems. Hey, no, I think I'm messing up right now as a dad because I'm just like I feel like I'm being super hard on my kids. But then
Yeah.
in other spaces, like, how do you feel? You know what? Being a dad of
Yeah.
four.
Yeah. I get you, because you know that there are groups like, And sometimes there might be other dads or other parents or just your friends, right? Like we're
Right.
friends. So, but and so I get it. Like I don't have any kids, but I could imagine because like we talk about real stuff. We talk about, our own experiences. And that is going to be a fear, especially if you know that you grew up and you were like, I kind of had a problem with this, that, something that my parent did do. Your kid can grow up and come to you and read you a list of things. I'm grown now. This is something I had a problem with, Dad.
Right.
What was you doing?
Oops. Oops.
Why
Look,
didn't you?
my bad.
That's
I
exactly.
want to be that dad if that happens with my kids
Yeah.
and they come to me. I want to be like, you know what? Before you hit me over the head with everything on that list, let me
Yeah.
first say, I am sorry for falling short. I am
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry that I didn't get it right and I've
That'd be
messed
healing
up
for a lot of people.
because I don't ever want my kids to think that I'm perfect. I've got it perfectly down because
Right.
raising them kids is difficult. There is no
Yeah.
instruction manual. There was no instruction manual for when you was writing on my wall with poop. Okay, there was no instruction manual uh, when you would not lay down and go to sleep. There was no instruction manual when you're screaming at all hours of the day and night, and I haven't rested in 3 days. There is no instruction manual. So when I
Yeah.
lost it on you, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to be that dad. I want to be the dad that can say, you know what, I screwed up. I don't know how to make it better for you, but let me at least share where I was in that journey when that happened.
Yeah. And acknowledging that, um, you said like I fell short, and that's okay because like your children, they love you. And sometimes I wonder if our parents, feel safe because obviously, like you're saying, you want to be that kind of dad. But when your kids maybe come to you and express certain things, maybe because of your lack, of safety in another area, it makes it hard for you to receive it. Because sometimes, like what you said, is beautiful. And for so many kids, uh, adults, when they address something, that happened in their childhood, they just wish, okay, I wish you were there more. I wish this, I wish you didn't have to work so hard so I can feel closer to you or whatever it is. Just them addressing and acknowledging the fact, that they did fall short, is healing. I know it is because there's certain things that I wanted to hear, and had to just say, well, I may never hear it. What
Right.
am I going to do about it? But yeah, it does make you think about it. And that's this book has definitely made me think and have more compassion for uh everyone that disappointed me, everyone that rejected me, everyone that that hurt me and that put me off my path for a while,
Hmm.
because it's really me that led them, but they started this thing,
Right.
and so I had to take the piece that's mine, and be accountable. But I do look at it and wonder what is their fear,
Right.
because
Hmm.
we're human. So it's just like we're all trying to figure it out with a bunch of people who have fears. They said that anxiety is at an all-time high. I think they said that at last year or this year. But I know from the pandemic, so many people got inherited this anxiety that they may have never felt like they had anxiety, and
Right.
now they have it, so
Yeah.
we definitely want to divorce fear so we can be delivered from anxiety and delivered from everything else that fear
Hmm.
manifests as,
Hmm.
for sure. And yeah, I love that. I love that. I wanted you to give you an opportunity to share about how we can get in contact with you for the audience. They want to get in touch with you and connect, find out about your coaching, find out how they can purchase your book. So if you would share that now.
Okay. So First off, if you want to find what I do on social media, you can find me at Cord Win Therapy.
Nice.
At CordWinTherapy. That is my handle on Instagram. I'm on Spotify. If you want to check out the
Oh, yeah,
podcast
podcast.
that I do,
Yeah.
um, it's called Entering the Lion's Den.
Yeah.
And
There
you
you
can
go.
just search that on Spotify. Now, for the this is probably going to be a surprise for you, V.
Okay.
Um, if you want to find the book, okay, the book is actually for free.
Oh, well,
The book
that's awesome. Such a treat.
the book is for free. It is on Spotify as well, and you would find it under TC2 colon novel. And
Awesome.
basically that is an audio version of the book. I put the audio version out for anybody who wants to listen to it,
Mhm.
just because I believe that this is such an important book that I wanted to give it away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like
Yeah,
I
no, it is. It's something that we need in our
Everybody needs
something to
it,
go
and
back in our
so
back pocket to kind of.
we made it for free.
Yes, I
But
love
I would say if you want a printed or a digital copy, that should be coming within the next 6 months or so.
it.
So
Okay,
the audio version came first.
that's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, and then that really opens it up for a lot more people to enjoy the book and gain um, some tools, to divorce fear. So I think that that's awesome. And I know there's a lot of people too who look, they need to touch the book and turn the pages like it does something for them. So
Right.
God bless y'all. So for me, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna read a little bit of it, but like when it's audio, it's playing, and I feel like I can kind of get into it's like a study, for me.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I love that. Well, Cordell, thank you. I really appreciate you coming and showing up. I know 4 kids and a wife. It's like I'm gonna find a few minutes for you, okay? But I appreciate you so much because I love the fact that you're doing what you do. I'm so glad that we reconnected, and I'm so proud of you because you're killing it. You are a man of many hats, and so I appreciate all the work that you're doing and just having a heart for God and chasing after God and trying to be the best servant to God. It's amazing. So thank you so much for all of that and for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. And for my audience, thank you so much for being amazing and always checking in with us. And we will see you next time. All right. Good night.